Partnered by Times Influence.
Nurturing young leaders and building front-runners of the future. The first edition of Future 50 Schools Shaping Success was held in the national capital. Fortune India, along with Univariety, identified and honoured 50 schools from the length and breadth of the country in a first-of-its-kind initiative.
Education shapes the future, and schools play a very, very critical role because we as a nation are very shortly going to be the youngest country in the world. So how this generation turns out will in many ways get defined by the quality of schools we have and the quality and the method of in which these schools are run. So this initiative to recognize schools which are the best of the best, they pick 50 of the best schools, I think it's a very good initiative because you need to encourage schools to do better and you need to encourage others to emulate those schools which are doing well.
Aiming to recognize the efforts of schools and introduce best practices of learning, the gala event saw participation from industry stalwarts and school principals from across the country.
The concept behind the Future 50 Schools Shaping Success came about to serve essentially three purposes. Number one was to recognize and appreciate the efforts that the schools are making, the choice that they're making to provide additional exposure, because clearly this is a choice. It's not something which is necessarily mandated by a lot of boards. Number two, to basically bring about the best practices that certain schools are doing so that a lot larger number of schools can learn from it. And number three, and probably my personal favorite, to be able to inspire thousands of schools to start thinking of going beyond. We really felt that this was a major benefit that we could derive as a nation, as a country, as educators, if this certification could achieve that. This certification will uphold the highest levels of integrity in the years to come and the tradition of identifying industry leaders. With that, I welcome you to an exciting journey that begins today. Congratulations to all the participants. Thank you.
Fortune India is pleased to join hands with Univariety in the creation of Future 50 Schools Shaping Success. We are delighted to launch a first-of-its-kind premium 21st century certification in education with our maiden venture in the K-12 segment. The segment which was long awaited to be recognized through parameters of excellence. To maintain the sanctity of the evaluation procedure, we have on board with us PwC as independent process advisors, who are also the famed advisors and evaluators of the Academy Awards, the Oscars. I would like to welcome you all to the unveiling of first edition of Future 50 Schools Shaping Success. Thanks.
The selection criteria for the participating schools went through a stringent evaluation process that took note of the overall performance of the schools. The eminent jury members, along with independent process advisors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, left no stone unturned in their unique methodology to find the most deserving schools for this prestigious certification.
This is a slightly different methodology of recognizing schools in the sense that the schools themselves have been asked to register, and then that information has gone to a totally neutral, non-academic PricewaterhouseCoopers group which has analyzed the information. It then came to jury members without any names of schools being involved. It was numbers. It was a long process. We worked pretty hard at trying to do a good job of selection. And I would like to thank all of you for participating. I would like to congratulate all of you and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to all of you. I want to add a few things here. I mean, one, it was a very rigorous process. And the information that the schools gave us, the more and more information that they gave us, the more and more we got to know about the schools and we were able to make a decision. Also, having said that, I know it's really important for schools to be part of this Future 50 schools, but also remember that it is a process to come there. You've taken a first step to participate in it, and I wish all of you are part of the first Future 50 schools, but please continue engaging and take this as a learning process for you to take back and say, what else can we do? How well can we let people know what we do? And also, what else can we add to make our schools a successful school? Good luck to all of you. And as I said, take this as a journey, a learning journey that we all take together and learn from each other. Thank you very much.
I want to begin by saying that for me, the whole process through which we went through, the two principal observations I had, on which I think each one of you must focus, is that the jury has a task of allocating equal importance to all aspects of what makes a child successful. And how does school relate to two major aspects, that's leadership in education and success for the child. So since these two are very important, I think it's important that all aspects, particularly when they come as a part of your process, it needs to be attended to. The second aspect I think that's very, very important for us to do is to look at why this process of certification was important. If it is important to be top-class leadership schools, if we are the way forward for many of the schools to follow, then we set standards. And those standards must be right.
Next in line was a panel discussion where some of the best names in the education sector came together to discuss the issue of how learning should go beyond grades for a student. The topic of the discussion: impact of opportunity, involvement and exposure on student learning in high schools.
So let me start off first with you, Dr. Gandhi. When you look at this concept of exposure and experiential learning, what do you feel is something that's been working well at your schools? And how would you really feel the impact of that on your students' learnings?
I think when we think of exposure and opportunity, we think mostly of those aspects of exposure and opportunity which will lead to the flowering of the talents of the individual. It could be in music, sport, it could be in public speaking, it could be in quizzing, debating, it could be in a whole range of things that increase the child's knowledge, academic excellence, their performance in terms of all these areas, as I said, public speaking and so forth. But the most powerful weapon that we have to change the world is indeed education. Now, if it is not to remain just paying lip service to this concept, if we have to translate this into action on the ground in our schools, then I think we have to recognize that, we have to give practical shape to that aspiration, that, okay, it is the most powerful weapon, but how am I going to use this weapon? How am I going to sensitize my students that they develop in their minds and hearts that they are committed to devoting their lives, utilizing their talents for the service of society, for betterment of the nation, for service of the world.
Ms. Malhotra, how would you at Shri Ram schools approach this whole concept of the exposure and the experiential learning from a student outcomes point of view?
At the Shri Ram school in the beginning of the year, we very often keep two things in mind, and I think most schools do that. The approach is to keep in mind what are the values we want to inculcate, what are the values we think are precious to us and should be to the students, and what the world and the community requires at large. Also, create diverse platforms because there are diverse needs. So there should be diverse opportunities for students to get in. And I would like to get that with some examples that are there. For example, we have an internship program. Again, experiential, but to really experience what the work world out there is. It's not all about the mark or my qualification. Something beyond that is required. For example, we had two students who were participating in a program we have with Mewat schools that have been taken under the Shri Educare umbrella, and we are working with them. So our students visited there. And they realized near Bhavani and Mewat, there is a small village where water scarcity was a huge issue. So they studied the problem. Then they interacted with the local panchayat and the villagers. Meanwhile, they had in their some subject, they had studied that moringa plant can help purify water. So now they worked with the local village panchayat and the local head, and large plantations of moringa plant have come up. They looked for sponsorship to see that the water gets purified, so some sort of a purification system is available, that they get good quality water not only for their homes but for also their cattle and things like that. So they've taken that much care to understand what the problem is at the local level, done some research, approached different organizations for support and sponsorship. So at our school, the effort is that any event or program typically should be by the student, of the student, and sometimes for the student or the community.
Dr. Sahu.
I heard here about the exposure and the opportunities. These two things are extremely crucial. How do you expose your students and how you give them the opportunity? As far as the balance is concerned, we were very strict and very firm from the beginning that 25% of the school time every day we will devote to non-academics. So what we did, in 8 hours day boarding school, we kept 1 hour for hobbies or creating clubs. So we have about 30 clubs. And the other 1 hour every day compulsorily we keep for sports, because we feel sports is integral part of education, and unless a child learns how to win over defeat, and a child doesn't learn that how to fail and then come up in life, I think education will be not complete. So we find exposing children into what they love, and once they start loving the school, academics become very easy.
Tell me, from a university's point of view, you're closer to the whole job market than a school is. What is it that you do with the students in the form of exposure, which is different from what schools typically would do, and how would that help them with their end objectives at your university? Because FLAME is one of the most progressive universities in the country. And how would you approach something like that?
What essentially we do is, liberal education at FLAME, it's a slightly different concept. Conventionally in India, after class 12th, you take up a specialization, engineering, medicine, whatever. That's not what happens in FLAME. The first year, there's no specialization. So there are 16 courses that a student studies in the first year. Second and third year is when he starts to specialize. So even before he's taking a subject, he spent 12 months learning other subjects. And we've got a 250 plus major minor combination. The first year, he tries to study a lot of subjects, understands what he is good at, then specializes year 2, year 3, and that's when he gets, I think that's one thing that we're doing different from the others. The opportunity to study subjects in the first year and then specialize in year 2 and year 3. I think that is the crux of what we do, different from many others.
It was now time to recognize excellence in the sphere of teaching. Handpicked for their best practices, 50 schools from across the country were awarded for their progressive schooling in a year-long process of evaluation. The Future 50 Schools Shaping Future Conference by Fortune India and Univariety awarded schools in 2 major categories, national and international curriculum. Starting with the national curriculum category, the winner was City Montessori School, Gomti Nagar 1, Lucknow. Next in the list for this category was Delhi Public School, Ghaziabad. Mayo College, Ajmer was another institution which came in the list of Future 50 schools. The next award in the National Curriculum category was given to Mayo College Girls' School, Ajmer. Miles Bronson International School, Guwahati was the next winner. Another awardee in the Future 50 Schools Shaping Success was Satpal Mittal School, Ludhiana. The next school which made it to the list was the Sunbeam School, Lahartara, Varanasi. The next awardee in the National Curriculum category was the Sri Ram School, Aravali, Delhi. The list of the other winners in the National Curriculum category are: in the International Curriculum category, the award was bagged by Calcutta International School, Kolkata. Shirek International School, Hyderabad was the next recipient in this category. The next winning school in the International Curriculum category was Inventure Academy, Bangalore. Kasiga School, Dehradun got the honor of being in the list of Future 50 Schools Shaping Success. Next in line was Oak Ridge International School, Einstein Campus, Hyderabad, which bagged the honor in the International Curriculum category. Pathways Group, Aravali, Delhi was the next prestigious institution which was awarded under the International Curriculum category. The next school under the International Curriculum category was the British School, Delhi, that bagged the coveted title. The other winners in the list of the International Curriculum are Catalyst of Change was another prestigious honor that was given away during the award ceremony. The first recipient of the honor was Dr. Suman Sharma, Principal, Lady Shri Ram College.
Friends, it's a matter of great honor and privilege for me to be honored with this award. I'm really overwhelmed. Thank you so much. I like to say here that LSR is known for excellence. What makes it unique is a very strong sense of social responsibility amongst our students. I like to thank Univariety for bringing the schools and also the higher educational institutions together, and also for starting the debate on how the colleges, the universities, and the schools can collaborate together. Thank you so much once again.
The honour was also bestowed upon Professor Ram Gopal Rao, Director, IIT Delhi.
Thank you very much. I am very honored to be here. And in fact, IITs are known for their exclusivity. We are trying to make these institutions more inclusive. We chose many IIT senior professors, the good teachers, and we said they should deliver lectures for the 11th and 12th standard children in maths, physics and chemistry. We want to reduce dependence of these coaching institutes for coming to IIT. So we recorded 800 hours of lectures on 11th and 12th standard textbooks. You just need to search with the IIT PAL, the PAL. The courses are available online now. We need to make these institutions a little bit more inclusive. We don't want to be known for rejecting students. We want to be known for transforming lives and solving problems and connecting more with the society. That's what I think we're all trying to do, and I hope we will be successful. Thank you very much.
Future 50 Schools Shaping Success, a platform that offered a plethora of learning opportunities for teachers and principals that will gear up schools not only to provide holistic development to students but also transform the nation.
I feel the role of teachers and the role of school in the societal development, in the human value, building up in the students, as well as shaping the future of India, is totally dependent on schools. So, as an educator, it's our prime responsibility not only to see that we train our students, it is to make them a lifelong learner.
Education is an ongoing process, and any child who comes to a school has to become a success story in wherever he is. And here in this particular program, the initiative that is taken, they are kind of sharing experiences of people so that at the end of the day, every student really becomes a success story. Now, what happens in education, unfortunately, it's become a rat race of ranking. By bringing in not a competitive spirit, but bringing in a collaborative approach, where schools share their practices, they mentor other schools, and they look into the depth and the breadth of what is happening within that institution, look at what is happening to better it, and later on, look at those areas where it can possibly make a kind of a landmark.
It has been an exciting first edition of the Future 50 Schools Shaping Success. We would like to specially acknowledge PwC India for being our process advisors and ensuring an unbiased and strong evaluation process. We had Mr. Ashank Singh and Ms. Nisha Shioran from PwC India team spearhead the evaluation process for us. And congratulations once again to all the Future 50 Schools Shaping Success. Good night and see you all next year. Thank you.
Partnered by Times Influence.